I've been injured for the past 4 months now, and in that time, I've still been able to climb V10. So I'm still not even really sure what happened completely. All I know is that I managed to injure my ring finger and my pinky finger, so I can't really do an open hand position, but I can still kind of crimp. So in climbing, a lot of people aren't really good about warming up, and surprisingly enough, the people who don't really warm up tend to not get injured. And so it's kind of counterintuitive because even before I got injured, I'd warm up pretty good and I feel like I had a good routine, and yet I still managed to get injured. But I think that goes to show that there's other more important things that you need to keep track of that isn't just warming up properly. For my warm up, I like to keep it pretty simple. I just like to start off by moving my arms around and hanging off a bar. Nothing super crazy yet, but something else that I've been adding in to help with my rehab for my fingers is doing some block pulls on the edge. And for that, I like to start super light. I like to just start with about 25 pounds and then lift it off the ground and do that for a few reps for a few sets, and I'll just progressively go higher and higher in weight for each hand. And obviously both my hands aren't injured, so for my left I'll go a little bit higher. I go to about 90 pounds, and for my right I stick to about 60 pounds. I think it's important to note though that changes every single session, and so I'll usually gauge it by feel, and depending on how I feel on the day, I'll either go a little heavier or even a little lighter. I think it's really important to not have an ego, especially when you're injured. So another part of my warm-up is having my shoulders feeling good, so when I'm moving really springy and dynamically, my shoulders are ready to engage with all that weight. So my gym's pretty new, so it looks really nice, but I do live in the Midwest, so there's only so much climbing around here, which means that there's not a lot of setters, so there's not usually a whole lot of boulders up. So the walls look pretty empty, but it does make for some cool looking boulders where they can spread everything out, and it just makes the videos look better anyways. And after I'm done warming everything up in the gym, then I'll usually go and hop on the wall, and I like to start really light. I like to start all the way down at V0, and I know that some people probably won't like starting there just because it kind of seems like a waste of time if you're projecting things like V8, V9, or V10 and above. But for me, I think it's important to feel super good and comfortable even on easy things, because then it just kind of translates to the next things that you work on. So that's how I like to start my sessions. So the first thing I decided to try out was this purple V2, V3, and I know I just got done saying that I like to start on V0s, but sometimes it does feel pretty redundant, and when I'm feeling good like I was in this session, then I just go ahead and hop on something a little bit harder. And this boulder in particular has really good holds all the way up, and so that's something else that's important to know, that you don't really need to start at the easiest grade level if you're sticking to really good holds and doing things you're comfortable with. Next up was this green V2, V3, which was again super juggy and just super straightforward all the way up. Then I went and tried this pink V4, V5, which was this cool kind of running start where you had to run up this volume to get to the start holds and then go out. And it's kind of an awkward boulder, but I like to add awkward kind of feeling things sometimes to my warm-ups just to mix it up a little bit. Then I got on some nice slab. I usually don't really do that much slab to warm up with, honestly, but there's this really good purple V4, V5, which I like to do, and so I hopped on this, just kind of techie, where you work your way around this corner, and then you have to do a pretty nice single leg pistol squat and stand up for a kind of surprisingly harder than it looks finishing move. And I wasn't feeling super strong this day, but I still kept powering on through it because a lot of the times it takes about an hour and a half, honestly, to feel fully warm. And by that point, I'll usually be able to climb pretty decently no matter what. So to see where my fingers were at for the day and how they were feeling, I hopped on this crimpier V4, V5. And so this is again why I think it's really important to not care so much about the grades, but more so the type of climb that you're doing. Because if I were to hop on this first, even though it's a V4, V5 and I'd be able to do it okay, it wouldn't be the best thing to start off with just because of the quality of the holds. You might have noticed also that I have some tape on. For me personally, I think that tape is about 90% placebo, but if it helps in any capacity, even if it's just mental, I like to try it out. And for me, taping's been working pretty well, and I'll usually put it on at the start of the session and sometimes even take it off when it starts to get kind of loose and wet feeling and reapply it again. Then I went up to try this blue kind of pretty 3D feeling boulder where you start on a pretty good hold and you use pretty good holds all the way around up until this third hold, which is a pretty crappy pinch. that you just really have to pinch hard with your right hand. And so even though I'm weak in that open hand position, it's not super comfortable to do wide pinches like this one, just because it kind of forces that. And so on this one, I ended up falling a couple times, but after giving it some brushing and refining my bait a little bit, finding a better spot with my foot, I was able to make the match work and then go out and finish the rest of the boulder. So then I went to what's called the island at my gym, and it's pretty much just a sectional wall that you can walk around on all four sides. And it usually has pretty good stuff on it, one of which was this blue 6-7 that I was trying out. And so you start on these two pretty bad crimps, honestly, and you have to do some weird matching where you end up going into a outward stemming kind of stuff. And I do pretty bad beta for this boulder, honestly. I kind of power my way through it, which is probably why I fell the first couple times, but I ended up just brushing the holds again, and that ended up working enough for me to be able to match and then go out. And even the finish move on this one, again, isn't super chill, but it's pretty fine. And I ended up doing a pretty bad match instead of just toe hooking here like I should have. So finally, I ended up trying the first 8-9 in the session, which was this black kind of slopey one, which is one of my favorite climbs in the entire gym. It's just super nice, powerful moves. It suits me super well, and it's usually a good gauge to see where I'm at for the day. So first move, you have to slap up to this pretty good sloper, and then you jump out to this other sloper. And then from here, you have a couple different options. I ended up finding this weird alternate beta where I like toe hook drop knee, and that ended up working really well. And actually, the crux for me that day ended up being matching this next hold, which was super awkward and bad feeling. And I was trying to match in a couple weird ways. My first attempt, I was trying to like mantle up this hold while having my right hand lower, which just made 0 sense. And then I tried the move in isolation and realized I just needed to campus match into it, and ended up doing it from the bottom right away after that. So after this boulder, I was feeling pretty good, and I just wanted to hop on something a little more fun. So I went to this blue 6-7, which is a super fun kind of running double clutch move, if you want to call it that. And you are going to a pretty good jug, but it's completely blind just because you have to slap out to it. And after that, it's pretty okay. You just have to crank a heel up on your right hand and then go up and match that and go up to the finish. So the next 8-9 I tried for the session was this orange one, which was, again, slopey holds, but surprisingly, it didn't really hurt my injury at all. Slopers don't really hurt it as much as when I'm in an open hand, like crimping 3-drag finger position, if that makes sense. And it's probably hard to tell on video, but this first hold is super bad. So you just have to start super locked off on your left shoulder and just reach out to the next hold. And from there, you get in a pretty good position, but the holds you're on aren't super great. And then you just kind of have to cut feet pretty awkwardly to get your right foot onto the start hold to go out to what I think is the crux hold. And then you just have to do an awkward kind of bump again, and then match in, and then go out. And this boulder, you'll see, was not climbed super well by me. Even though I wasn't feeling terrible this session, I wasn't feeling super great, so I was having to try pretty hard on things that I normally don't have to as much. But I think that's another good point to bring up, that when you're injured, you shouldn't really try to worry all the time about doing everything super perfectly, just because you're having to do things differently to work around your injury. But I think it just opens up another good opportunity for you to try out different things. Like in climbing, people like to stick to their style and what suits them, but I think it's pretty important to be diverse and try to experiment with different styles, because I think it'll just end up helping you out a lot in the long run. So finally, after some pretty dodgy climbing, I ended up getting to the boulder that I'd be on for the rest of the session, and the gym was closing in about 30 minutes from this point, so I didn't have a whole lot of time and not a very long session to begin with, so I knew I had to get this boulder done pretty quick. And this one was hard. It's only about a V9, but it features a really awkward mantle move where you have to press off of your wrist, which isn't the best thing to be doing, but it doesn't really put pressure on any of the injuries I have right now, so I knew that if I was just careful, I'd be completely fine on this. And on the start move for this, you start on a volume that's jibbed, and so you just have to kind of pinch it really hard, and you go out to this first hold, but you have a pretty terrible foot, so it likes to pop a lot. But after sticking it once, it was pretty okay, and I kind of figured it out. The next move though is this kick out step where you have to land on a jib on this far away volume, and from there you do this press mantle out. And doing this mantle was definitely the crux of the climb. It was just super awkward and bad feeling, and I had a lot of wasted attempts on this boulder. Since I didn't have a lot of time left, I wasn't doing super good resting, so I was just giving rapid fire burns back to back to back. which is definitely something I wouldn't advise and I don't usually do in my sessions, but I was just on a time crunch, so it's what had to happen this time around. It's probably hard to pick up on camera, but I was also sweating a lot during this session, and that's because the gym doesn't have the greatest AC, which is why they got some big fans up top if you notice those. And it's about 75 degrees in the gym, and it's probably another reason why my skin wasn't feeling super great. So after you do that mantle move, then you have to do this press where you then swap your feet around so you can make room. You are able to get into a splits position if you want a hand-foot match on your right hand, but I am not that flexible. So I had to shimmy my left foot over on the volume so I could make space and then get into this press up. And from there, surprisingly, the boulder is still not completely over. You have to do some pretty slow static matching and going out on some more slopers. And then you have to crank up a heel to go out to this last finish move. And by this point, I was pretty much running out of time. There was only about 5 minutes left, and I knew I had to send this boulder pretty fast. So after having a pretty bad slip, I ended up having to go that went like this. You can probably tell by the way I fell how relieved I was to match this one and get it finished, especially right before the gym closed in time. So that was my session, and that's how most of them have gone in the past month now. It's only been for a couple weeks now that my rehab's been going good and I've started to see actual improvements on my injured hand, but I'm still trying my best to get to the gym as much as I can every week and make progress. If there's anything to take away from this video though, I think it's that you shouldn't really get discouraged with injuries and that they're pretty normal in any sport. Although it is really annoying to hear when people like Magnus Bo say that they've never been injured in their entire life and they're just kind of able to push really hard through just about anything. But it's a pretty bad mindset to have that just because someone else isn't getting injured doing something that you're gonna get away with doing it the exact same way. If you like the video, feel free to like, and also if you're injured, it doesn't even matter if it's for climbing or not, let me know. I'm curious to know how people could be dealing with theirs even if it's in a different sport and how they're still improving. So thank you for watching if you made it all the way through to the end of this, and hopefully I'll have a new video out by the next week.